battling through. Today, I don't feel any different. Just an average, normal 16-year-old gentleman. In 2000, me and my family and I moved to Kyrgyzstan, an extremely diverse culture. When I moved there, unknown. At the point before we moved, people in Saskatoon wondered if Kyrgyzstan even offered any services and questioned whether we should be moving there. But living in another country proved to be a very rewarding experience. When we moved back in 2004, I went to a new school called South Cover Park. Then after grade 6, I attended St. Philip. During the course of my 2-year stint there, we did some testing with some teachers to determine where my classes would be at Holy Cross, and if they would be modified or alternate education, also known as ALTED. The results didn't come back so positive or good. There was a major possibility that I would not be in the ALTED program. When we registered for grade 9, I had to take a learning assistance tutorial, so I had to drop grade 9 science. Then I had to take that in grade 10. Luckily, my transition teacher missed the memo that I had autism, so nothing changed any of my classes. Right now I'm 16 years old in grade 10. I'm in a mainstream program, and I'm doing very well at the moment. Every day I feel normal. Every day at school, when I'm at school, I forget the fact that I have autism. I have a keen interest in sports. My Montreal Canadiens, Rough Riders, Chargers, and Toronto Blue Jays. I like playing hockey and football, enjoying swimming, and of course, playing and watching golf, especially watching the Masters. Over the years, I have traveled all over the world. I went to Portugal, Greece, Italy, Maldives, Thailand, and Vietnam. When I moved back to Saskatoon, my family and I traveled to St. Lucia, Spain, and Greece for the second time, Bahamas, Ottawa, and most recently, New York City. My main point to all parents of autism: always have hope. Always have hope and stay positive, and results will come.
Everyone always asks, how did you know, and what were the signs? Since John was our first child, that was obviously new territory for us. The only milestones we knew to follow were those that were in a book. You know the series, what to expect when you're expecting, what to expect the first year, etc. We did the routine doctor appointments, and everything was always fine. Even when John would flap his hands over the excitement of something, it never seemed to be anything to be concerned about. He walked on his toes, was fascinated by things that would spin, and didn't have many words. John seemed to have a language of his own. We always said, when this child starts to talk, he'll never stop. And today, that's exactly our job. So our doctor sent us to see a speech therapist. She wasn't the most warm and fuzzy person, and the only thing that came out of that appointment was us leaving very upset because she was rude, cold, and how could she say things about our son when she didn't even know him? How can you make judgment calls when you spend only an hour with an individual you've never met before? Needless to say, we didn't spend a lot of time analyzing her comments. Just because the K wasn't put at the end of the word mill doesn't mean he didn't know what he was talking about. And of course, I knew exactly what he was saying. Eventually, we came around to the realization that there was something not quite right and we needed to push to have testing done. How much time had we already wasted by being oversensitive to a stranger's opinion? As John said, we received a diagnosis on his 5th birthday. After a long waiting list to get into the Kinsman Center, our day finally arrived. It took only one day. John saw the speech therapist, psychologist, pediatrician, and occupational therapist, all individually throughout that day. At the end of that day, we met with all of them to discuss what their findings were. When we left the Kinsman Center with our little folder of information on autism, information was on how to contact autism services, along with the listings of speech therapists. Thank goodness, one of the team members took it upon themselves to circle one of the names on that long list, and that name was Kathy Jo Simke. We started making the phone calls to let the family and friends know what the outcome was. Some of them didn't really know what autism was. We didn't really know what autism was. At the time, no one really knew, except for the movie Rain Man. I remember when I told one close friend that Johnny had autism, and the response was, "Oh, I'm so sorry." I said, "Sorry for what? He's the same little boy that walked in there that walked out. Nothing's different. The only thing that is different is that there's a name now to say what it is that makes him flap his hands with excitement and go running, screaming, scared when the noises are too loud." So that was March of 2000. By the end of May, we had decided to move to Kyrgyzstan, Central Asia. I did as much as I could do through Autism Services, enrolled them in the summer program, attended the annual meeting, talked to so many people getting their opinion on if moving was okay to do. And Johnny seeing Kathy Jo as much as her schedule would allow, and just trying to gather as much information as I possibly could to figure out what we could do to help him. The boys were 5, 3, and 1 when we moved. Was I scared moving to a country that I knew nothing about? Somewhat. But we went knowing that if we didn't like it or wasn't working out, we could always move back. I bought so many learning materials from the teacher's trunk before we left. I knew that if the school wasn't going to work out, I would take care of things at home. And guess what? That international school had an enrollment of 12 children in Doable. John had so much one-on-one instruction, you couldn't have asked for anything more. We came back to Canada a year later for our home leave, had all our appointments lined up for him to see everyone again. Kathy Jo, occupational therapy, psychologist, pediatrician. We thought everything was going really well until we had the meeting with that occupational therapist. During our discussion, I said to her, "But there's progress, he's doing well." Her response to me was, "Yes, there may be progress now, but he's going to hit that plateau and there won't be any more progress." That was the last time we saw her. I thought, who are you to tell me that this 6-year-old would not progress? That seems to be our ever-ending battle. We are constantly trying to convince the school systems that yes, he is capable and you just have to get to know him. Just because the results of a certain testing comes out below normal, or the numbers aren't up to what their expectations are, or falls within their guidelines, that does not give anyone the right to tell me that my son, what he cannot do. Everyone learns differently, and it is up to the teachers and us as parents to figure out what works for our children. We have choices in this world, and I will not let someone take a choice away from one of my children because of a number on a piece of paper. As you can see, John has not only continued to grow in height, thank goodness for heels, he continues to grow and progress 10 years later. Last year at the parent-teacher conference, John's learning assistant teacher said to us, "I have to apologize to you, you were right. John can do regular programming. We will keep moving forward one class at a time, and good for you to fight to keep him out of the all-head." We have had difficult situations with some of the professionals and teachers in this world around autism, and we have had wonderful success with others. What it comes down to for us is, you know your child. Don't let the textbooks and what one thinks is logic lead you. Everyone is an individual. What works for one person may not work for the other. Don't get hung up on numbers and testing results. Use them as guidelines, unless it is your child coming home telling you that he got 80% in math. So, with that, we're going to take a 15-minute break. goals, just a moment to read from there.